Hi, welcome to Let's Locums. This is Mark Royer. I'm an ear, nose, and throat surgeon and locum tenens physician. And today on Let's Locums, I'm joined by Pavel Rybin, a physician assistant in otolaryngology whose story spans from the Soviet Union to academic trauma centers to launching his own mobile ENT clinic in North Carolina. Pavel immigrated to the U.S. as a toddler, earned his degree in rehabilitation science in Georgia, completed PA training at Gardner-Webb, and has spent the last several years in general ENT practice. Most recently, he wrapped up a locums assignment at a level 1 academic trauma center in Charlotte, North Carolina, gaining hands-on experience in head and neck oncology and academic medicine. In 2025, he took a big entrepreneurial leap and founded None of Your Ears Wax, a mobile ENT clinic serving the North Charlotte area with a focus on accessible after-hours care in a really awesome Class B Mercedes, which I can't wait to talk about. It's both brilliant branding and a business model that I'm really looking forward to talking about today. He's also a husband, father of 3, real estate investor, church involved, and as we'll get into, a dedicated garage gym lifter. We'll talk about locums as a PA, academic versus private practice, building a mobile clinic from scratch, balancing family with entrepreneurship, and what it takes to stay physically and mentally strong in medicine. Pavel, welcome to Let's Locums.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
So I've known you now for a few months, and we actually had a conversation related to ENT and locums and service lines not too long ago. Today, I was supposed to be operating down in Kentucky, but got snowed in with, I think it's called Storm Fern. So I reached out. I was like, hey, man, you got any time? And you did. So I'm really excited that this worked out.
I appreciate it.
So, I mean, I have to start with your origin story because it's quite impressive. You were born in the Soviet Union. You immigrated to the U.S. as a young child, really as a baby, I guess. What's the family story there?
So my parents were religious in Russia. Unfortunately, in that time period, religion was very regulated by the government. And as we progressed more into our belief and our religion, my parents all decided that the time to leave was more important than staying. And so my father, he was one of 13, and the majority of his brothers and sisters decided that it was time to escape communism, come to a country where freedom of religion, freedom of beliefs was possible. And so instead of leaving voluntarily, like I said, they left to the point where it was almost escaping. And they had a lot of help, which was amazing. There were programs, there were people that were willing to put their lives on the line so that people could escape. And we eventually made our way to America.
So you were growing up in the U.S., eventually settled in North Carolina. What drew you towards medicine and specifically ENT?
So I've always been into medicine. I'm one of 8 children. Nobody in my extended family is in medicine. We do have a few that are now, but I've always had the fascination with the human body. I've always been interested in knowing and understanding it. So I started early on. I got a job as a physical therapy technician. I made my way into orthopedics, was in there for about 8 years, got a job as a medical assistant, and I helped build an orthopedic practice for one of the surgeons. And I never really understood what a physician assistant was until a physical therapist actually turned me onto it and said if he could go back and choose a different career, he would be a physician assistant. So it changed my career path from physical therapy to now physician assistant.
Oh, incredible. So what attracted you to otolaryngology?
It's so funny because I had no interest in anything else besides going into orthopedics. I thought it was going to be an ortho bro. I thought I was going to fix bones and be in the operating room. And we had an ENT physician come and teach our ENT class during PA school. And I enjoyed it so much. I did very well on the exam. And when the time came for clinicals, I got paired up with them in an underserved rotation. And I, again, never thought I would be so into ENT and otolaryngology, but I'm so obsessed with it now that I don't see myself in any other profession than doing this, which I love every single day.
I thought you were going to say that you just really love our headlights. 'Cause our headlights are pretty awesome.
I do. I have a collection, unfortunately.
I saw that you share my obsession with headlights. Your favorite is also my favorite. It's that Stores that's portable, super light, and amazingly bright.
Yeah, I was gifted one on my last couple of days at my locums oncology, and it is a dinosaur that when you click, it actually screams. So
That's pretty great.
It's my absolute favorite one.
So what does general ENT look like day to day? I always say general ENT, but you were really the assignment you just finished up. I know is really intense, kind of head and neck level one trauma. So that's probably different. I mean, let's talk these days. What does general ENT look like for you?
I'd say a typical day would include a lot of post-ops, depending on kind of the day. We had certain days where you could tell that the week prior it was tube tonsil adenoid day, where that next week you're seeing 8 to 10 follow-ups just for checkups. We also had a lot of patients coming in for the typical ear pain, just to diagnose that, whether it was a ear bleed or TMJ associated ear pain. The majority of my general ENT was just managing the simple earwax, nosebleeds, tube checks, post-op visits, things like that. And then I'd say the most interesting portion of what I did was we had created what's called a walk-in ENT urgent care, which allowed us the ability to have patients coming in for anywhere between, I mean, we diagnosed cancers to foreign bodies. I had a patient come in. She went to a classic barbecue, ate a burger, said something was stuck in her
Yeah.
throat. We scoped her, and sure enough, there
Wire
was a grow
brushes,
brush.
man.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the worst. What skills do you think are critical for PAs to thrive in?
So for me, my absolute favorite is microscopy and ear suction. Your eye-hand coordination with microscope was so interesting that you're magnifying it 20, 30, 100 times looking into somebody's ear, but you're also sticking sharp instruments into somebody's ear, either pulling out a foreign body, plenty of bugs that we had taken out, or again, very complex earwax. The other skills, obviously, scoping. It's a very, very, I'd say, in demand when it comes to ENT because there are patients that are very difficult to scope. I would say a few times I had to pull in an attending because I tried every trick in the book, couldn't get through their deviated septum, or I couldn't get through the patient being uncomfortable. And you have an ENT with 20 to 30 years experience just slipping at a scope, and you're just like, how do you do that? It's
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 magic.
fantastic. I know.
Yeah, expectations are really important, kind of telling them
Yep.
what to expect. And did you ever get scoped yourself?
I did. We had
Yeah,
plenty of PA students that would come along, and I would always tell them, I said, let me be your your patient.
it's
And it's
brave,
good to
man.
feel what a parent,
Yeah,
what a patient's actually feeling.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. It certainly gives you a lot of empathy towards it, and then you can explain it too.
Yep.
What to expect.
Yep.
And the microscope skills are one of those things that you can certainly learn it and get better at it, but I think you don't really know until you have that experience whether or
No.
not it's something that you're particularly gifted at. And sounds like you were and liked it. So that's great. So this is the Let's Locums podcast. So let's talk about your locums experience. What made you decide to take a locums assignment?
I was very interested in expanding my ENT skills, something outside of what I'd been naturally doing. I was very comfortable scoping. I was very comfortable doing microscopy, peritonsillar abscesses, small things, skill wise, where it was just repetitive and you got really good at it. We didn't often see a lot of head and neck cases. We would diagnose the cancers, but then we would push them out to the head and neck oncology team. And after that point, I never really saw what happened after that. And so as my experience in ENT gained and was kind of hitting a wall of education and learning more and more things, this local locums opportunity came up, which is outside of what typical locums is like because most people are traveling or going to a different place. They interviewed me and said, this is what we are going to be doing. You're going to be taking care of patients, inpatient, outpatient, and it will be in the operating room. And I was very honest with them. I said, I have outpatient experience. I'm a little bit of operating room experience, but I have zero inpatient experience. I said, listen, if you train me, I will do my best. I said, but I would love this opportunity because it would expand my ENT knowledge into more of the head and neck oncology rather than general ENT. And so I made the jump.
And so going from private practice to locums, that is a big jump. It sounds like you got to stay local, which is great. What was the pay like from as far as like a multiplier of what you were making in a private practice job doing locums as a PA?
So for me personally, it tripled my income, which
Wow. Jeez.
was, unbelievable to even imagine. And what made it even more was, like you had said, I had the ability to pick a lot of my scheduling. I was able to pick my day off. It was a 4-day locums, which was great.
Is that differential of three times what you make in a normal employee job? Do you know, is that across the board with PA locums, or was that more in your unique situation?
I did do a lot of just research into what other locums opportunities are paying. Now, this one was a little bit different because at first they said, here is your job qualifications, here's what you're going to be doing. And sure enough, that completely changed. And I went to them and I said, listen, you can't just all of a sudden tell me that I'm going to go from this to this. I said, there has to be this increase in pay, because if you're telling me I'm going to be an outpatient ENT, head and neck oncology physician assistant, and then switch me to full-time inpatient, which we know in different scenarios, they pay a little bit more or they pay a little bit less. Well, I was doing all three. And so I told
Hmm.
him, I said, I'm doing way more than what you're asking of me.
Hmm.
And so I was able to actually negotiate about 6 months in for a little bit extra, which increasingly helped. And then the other locums that had come in, I was very upfront and honest with how much I was making, and they were as well. So it was interesting to hear how much more I was making comparative to them. But I also wasn't getting paid mileage. I was not getting paid for my lodging. I was not getting paid for food. And so a lot of that had to translate into that had to make sense for me.
You make a really good point with negotiating. Your roles had changed, that had shifted. It's completely reasonable to express that to whoever you're working with, whether you're direct contracting or working through an agency, to expect a compensation commensurate with that, with those changing roles for sure. So, would you recommend locums to other PAs?
So that's kind of like my big thing now is I only recommend locums. Now, to a lot of PAs that I worked with on a daily basis, I was very upfront and honest with how much I was making, because I wanted them to know that there are these opportunities out there. And to hear what some of these other APPs were making was astonishing to me. It's crazy to even think about it. And I told them, I said, listen, I'm a father of three. And I said, I'm doing this. There's opportunities for people that are single or just have a spouse. I said, you can work 6 months out of the year, make double what your salary is, and have 6 months off to do whatever you want to. And it sounds insane and crazy, but that's what a lot of people are doing. The more
Hmm.
I leaned into it, the more I talked to a lot of people. I was on Reddit. I was on all these forums, and I was listening to these other local people or even these locums talking about their opportunities and what they do, and then it gives them the opportunity to do things on the side. That to me was the experience and the lifestyle that I wanted to have myself. And sure enough, I made the jump. It is a risk, and a lot of people say that. They're like, well, there's no guarantee. And I said, well, there isn't, but unfortunately, if it pays off, it's significantly better than what you're doing now.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot more cash up front, and I think the
Yep.
time value of money is always important there. People, I think, have a false comparison where they feel like they're comparing higher pay to long-term stability. It's true to a certain degree, but even employed jobs really don't necessarily have the stability that we might think that is there. So I think it's always good to negotiate for your highest rate that you think is fair. And I love your transparency with sharing that with other providers, because that's really important as well, to be able to help those around you and making sure that you're all being compensated appropriately and fairly. And you mentioned you're on Reddit a bit, so you're a moderator
I
on
am.
the subreddit. So how does that work? Are you is that are you a moderator if it's a subreddit that you set up on your own, or can you join and become a moderator based upon your contribution?
Yeah, so I've been on Reddit now for maybe over 10 years, and I'm involved in a lot of these medical Reddits. And I like it because, again, you have a lot of people that are just honest and upfront, because there's anonymity in those subreddits and or even in those Reddits where people just don't care. They're like, you don't know who I am, so I'm going to just go out there and tell you everything that's true. And I trust the majority of information going out there because, you see a lot of these places talk about, oh, well, here's the average pay of here's what a PA makes or here's what an MP makes. And I tell people all the time, I said, if you really want to know what some of these people are making, I said, go and Reddit. I said, they're the
Yeah.
most honest people. They'll tell you what their job is, how much they're making, what their bonuses are, because there's just that freedom of I can express it. Nobody's going to tell me I'm in trouble. Nobody's going to tell me I can't say this. And so I go on there a lot and I give a lot of help to these upcoming and new PAs because they have all the same questions that everybody asks. It's what specialty should I go into? Should I do locums? There's a lot of questions on there of, hey, I'm 1 or 2 years in. Should I do locums? And to be honest, I tell a lot of people, I said, the first 3 years of your career should be learning. I said, learn one, how to take care of patients, two, an EMR system, and three, as much skills as you can. Years 3 to 5, you're the most marketable PA you will be out there. And then after 5 years, you're going to be just to the point where you want a nice, comfortable job and you're not working so hard. And so it's a balance of what you are looking for.
Sounds very similar to post-residency advice I give, for sure. Ton of overlap there. How much time does it take to be a moderator on a subreddit?
Not much. You really just one watching out for anybody that's posting inappropriate things. Daily I'm going on there and if we have like multiple Reddits with subreddits, and so you're trying to just navigate these people and say, hey, this question is better served in there. And then obviously there are these topics that just explode. Like we've had a couple political ones that people start to really express their opinions, and then sure enough, having ones that are specific to APPs, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners, you're going to get the outliers of people coming in. There's plenty of residents and doctors that will come in there and express their opinions. Well, our job is, again, not to break up fights or to do anything. Our job is to really help our profession, and that's what we focus on. We want PAs and NPs to come in there and ask questions how it can better help and serve your career rather than coming in there and berating someone or saying negative things on it.
So you have some of those posts that blow up. I just saw you had a post go, I would say viral on Instagram
Yeah.
over, we just got I was mentioning earlier, we're snowed in here. You had this hilarious post with, it was like Lord Fourquad.
Yep.
Right? And it's basically talking about, I'll let you tell it, what that post was and the pushback you got from a interesting CEO.
Yeah. So one, I love Shrek. Probably one of my absolute favorite kids films out there, even though, again, I watched it as an adult. And Lord Farquaad, his absolute favorite quote was, some of you may die, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. And so I put on there, this weekend, obviously CEOs are going to request that all medical personnel show up to work regardless of how you're going to get there. And the running joke is
pizza, though, right?
Yeah, and the running joke is obviously CEOs make a ton of money and they pay us very little, and people wonder why that we have this hardship in the medical life is because is it worth it for us? And so there were a lot of comments about people calling out or not showing up. And then this one individual, which again, I'm not going to call them out, but started to make some comments and then called a few people a loser on there and even attacked me saying, I'm a PA that just likes to attack people. So,
it's not true, by the way.
Right.
I've followed you for a while, yeah.
And if you're going to be someone that says that, for me, it's holding yourself accountable and to a higher standard. Obviously, I said a very nice and professional rebuttal back to them, but there comes a point where it's almost, I wanted to say, where even as medical professionals, it's to the point where you can't even say things on your own personal page without being attacked. And it's like, what kind of a freedom do we have around here? Saying, it was a joke. Obviously, we said it in humorous tones, but some people just are so offended that they're now, if you're a CEO, or you really should be saying that about the people that come in during these hard times and work their butts off. And, I remember one time for Christmas, we got blankets as bonuses. Everybody's expecting $500-$600 bonus checks in the mail. And sure enough, they're like, nope, here's some blankets. And we're like, I know how much money I make, you guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, my favorite hospital bling appreciation story was they were giving, it was doctor's day, and so they were giving out come by the staff lounge, right?
Yeah.
So we happened to be, it's like one of the couple of hospitals in town, we happened to be there, like, oh, Allie, we should swing by. So we swung by, and it was an umbrella, all right? It was this little cheap umbrella, it's fine, but they gave one to me, and then they looked at Allie and they want to give one to her. I'm like, are you a doctor here? Like, okay, I know she's a woman. I know. No, she's not my nurse following me around. But yeah, it's a frustrating thing. I found it interesting too that the CEO, her whole point was, well, I show up or whatever. I found it interesting that she's surfing Instagram for people to start attacking during this storm
Yep.
that's going on. There are many things that kind of stood out. Oftentimes, we as healthcare professionals put ourselves through situations where we're putting our health and our safety at risk. I mean, not only from violence in the workplace and directed at healthcare professionals, but just, there's a lot of talk now about ergonomics and surgery. And I know so many attendings who were my age and already having cervical disc issues and having surgery. What do you think would be a better approach to it? Is it truly just higher compensation for our people that are providing the care? The patients have to be seen, right? Is it hospital providing like Humvees to pick people up? I mean, what is the answer there?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I mean, if you think about the resources that are available to one, like you said, to protect medical personnel, I have been at hospitals where they have their own transportation systems. They literally have buses that come and pick up the patients and drop them off and do all these other things. And for them to say that you couldn't do something like that for the people that are risking their lives to help other people, because patients will find a way to get to the hospital. And if anything were to happen to you on the way to the hospital's going to be like, well, that's not our fault
Right.
because you weren't on the clock and you're not on our property. And
Hmm.
so that's where the double-edged sword comes in. Is everybody wants the answer, and that's the hardest part about it. Is our jobs don't stop. That's the one thing I tell people. I said, we work 365, 24/7, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving. We signed up for this, and I understand that is what I am choosing to do, but it has to be worth it at some point to me. And that's either safety, or that's monetary, or that's a combination of both. And so it's a hard question to answer. And that's where, again, the higher ups, the leaders, like the one that was messaging on there, instead of putting down some of these medical professionals, could have easily said, listen, I am willing to listen to you guys. Like, what can I do, or what can we do as an organization to make sure that this is worth it for you? I've never seen that, never heard that, and it doesn't happen often. And so that's where our behavior comes in. And is sure enough, Lord Farquaad's quote is so on point, because that's how we see the suits, or the people that are higher up. That's how they manage everything.
Well, until we have people like you willing to call that out,
Yep.
I mean, you have to call it out and realize, hey, this may be the way things have been done for decades, but it's not okay going forward. Until that continues to happen, it's not going to get better, and it needs to change. So I appreciate you
Yep.
putting yourself out there and being the direct recipient of
Thanks.
CEO, who it was hilarious because her whole point was that she's not a normal CEO, but then she goes on to just like prove your point over and
Right.
over and probably completely lack the insight to realize that's what was going on. So
Yep.
anyway, so I will say at this point, and we'll link all this stuff below, but your Instagram is great. Tell me what the handle is. It's
Pavel, the ENT PA, and the Pavel, the PA is capitalized in my name, because PA and Pavel versus what I do. I'm a PA as
Pavel,
well.
the ENT PA. I highly recommend it. So the other thing I started seeing popping up was your mobile ENT clinic.
Mhm.
So called None of Your Ears Wax. First of all, incredible name. Where did that come from?
So, funny story, my kids like to say none of your beeswax a lot. I mean, I was just sitting there, I was like, getting pretty angry, because I'm like, guys, you got to stop saying that. And I don't know, out of the blue, I was just like, it's none of your ears wax. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that is the absolute best name for anything. And when I created this company, I was like, I wanted something where people were like, they read it and it laughs at them, and then it intrigues them, right? So it's like, well, what does that mean? And sure enough, the majority of what I was doing in general ENT was cleaning out earwax. And so ENT, everybody thinks like, oh, you guys just clean out earwax all day. Well, we do, but we do other things. And so um, I kind of put that into the name, and then a mobile ENT NC was kind of the sub name to put it all together, so that people knew that it's not the only thing that I do.
So I love this business idea. I love this service. So it's a mobile ENT clinic. 60% of what's seen in urgent care is ear, nose, and throat related. So it's a
Yep.
huge part of why people are seeking care. You are providing that in a way that you can either do home visits or pull the ENT clinic on up. And the mobile ENT clinic, for some background, is a Mercedes Sprinter van that has been modified. I know we were talking earlier and you had found it on Facebook Marketplace, got a really solid deal on
Hmm.
it. It already had the sink, I believe, in it.
Yep.
Or did
Sink
you
and
add that?
electricity. Yep.
Sink and electricity, and then you outfitted it completely to be, I think there's even an ENT chair in there. So I
There.
just saw this
Yep.
and I was like, wait a second, did I dream this up? Like, what is this real? Is this AI? Like, this is like, this algorithm is getting insane because like, what a cool thing. It combines my love for, and my 7-year-old's love for the one time we had an RV, my desire to always get a mobile or get a Class B Sprinter van and ENT. And I was like, wow, this guy, I got to talk to this guy. This is incredible. But tell us a little bit more about the logistics, vehicle equipment, how you're scheduling payer mix with this business.
In North Carolina, they recently passed a law that essentially said that you didn't need to have a brick and mortar clinic anymore to have a mobile ENT clinic. And so it gave
Was
way
this
to.
ENT specifically or just any clinic?
No, this is just mobile clinics in general. There's a
They
lot
have a
of other
specific
ones.
law for it. Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
so it was great because obviously I didn't have a brick and mortar office and I wasn't going to create one because of the overhead and the cost. And so I wanted to find something that I could pay off completely. And so it goes back to the locums. I made so much money that it allowed me to take off this whole next year and really focus on what I'm doing with this. And so the logistics behind it is, obviously, you got to treat it like it is a clinic itself. So you need to have a hand washing station. All your cabinets need to have locks on them. I have a fully integrated electrical system where I can turn the van off and it runs on its own power. I had to rebuild that, unfortunately, because it wasn't up to spec for whoever did it prior. And so this one has been completely outfitted with an electrical box. You can plug into an outlet, you can charge, you can do whatever. And then it has an AC system. It has fan system. It also has, again, like you said, it has a microscope that on the back wall, it's literally built like the walls that are in your house. It has studs. It has wood that I can hang certain things up on it. I have a fully integrated ENT um, cabinet that has suction. It has the
Jeez.
pressure. It has the pull-out cabinets that have all of my ENT equipment in it. I also have a Welch Allen, it's a wall otoscope with blood pressure and heart rate and every temperature reading on there that came with it. The flooring was completely done. It's insulated.
I man, I've never wanted anything more. I mean, I think it's time you sell that to me and start the next one. We can just
Well,
retrofit all these
yeah,
vans. That would be what a
yeah.
cool thing. I love it so much. So what so far what's been the hardest thing about launching?
I would say just getting into the habit of how you transition from seeing a patient or getting a patient on the schedule, going to them, figuring out time wise, location. Because obviously, I want to see everybody in every location possible, but you really have to kind of keep it local to the point where obviously, if I'm doing this after hours, then you're also, is this around traffic? Is this around when people are leaving? Am I meeting you at your residence? Do I have to meet you at a place where it's convenient for you? Do you have to come to a place closer to me? I've driven 30 minutes to see somebody. I've driven 10 minutes to see somebody. And, a 10-minute visit can, like, a 10-minute visit can turn into a 30-minute visit. And so that kind of changes that dynamic. The big thing that I wanted to focus on was I'm accessible. So it's like you can still sit at your home and I will still come to you. You don't have to sit in a waiting room. You don't have to wait on anything. And I send all the paperwork to you so you can fill it out. It will automatically come back to me. And then me filling out my documentation is pretty simple because I have all the information prior to walking into your home or coming up to your house. And so it makes things a little bit easier. It's also cash based. The big thing on that, obviously, is it allows me as a provider to focus on treating the patient and seeing them rather than saying, what's my coding going to be? What's my CPT? What's my billing?
Yeah, it
It's
would take a
focusing on
year and a
patient.
half for United to
Yeah.
pay a mobile clinic regardless of the state laws, if
Yeah.
that. Maybe by 2050. So cash is the only thing that makes sense in that situation. What has worked better than expected?
I would say the amount of people that wished I was up and running like 3 or 4 months ago, when it was a time where people were going through October, November was a really bad upper viral ear infection time. And, you want to be available for those times. School's kind of back into session. So obviously there's that gap where people aren't available for it. But for me, it's just that the convenience of so many people are like, I wish I knew about you sooner. I wish I knew about you at that time because our care is not always right. So, like a family practice, you're going in every 6 months to a year. I want to be, it's like when you need that, all you got to do is call me and then I'm available. You don't have to wait for an appointment. That appointment can be done on your time and you can schedule it again after hours, after 5 o'clock. I'm seeing patients up until 8 o'clock at night and I'm comfortable doing that because it allows me to give access to care to patients that are just like, I can't make it to the clinic and sit for 3 to 4 hours and be seen by a provider for 5 minutes.
I love it. Well, good luck to you, man. That's great.
I
And
appreciate it.
if you ever want to upgrade your ride, let me know. I'll be your first buyer for
Awesome.
that mobile ENT clinic. All right, great. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us, Pavel. Really enjoyed it. I've loved hearing about your journey as a PA, your time, interest, and passion. I would say for ENT, and your time at doing locums, and then now your awesome none of your ears wax ENT clinic. I have something called a Fast Five that I do with my guests. There are kind of 5 quick questions about something I found that's pretty interesting and I want to know a little bit more about. Before I do that, can you let our listeners know how they can reach out to you, how they can find you, where you're at online besides Reddit as moderator?
Yeah. So I am on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. A lot of my names are either my company name, None of Your Ears Wax, or Pavel, the ENT PA. I do have a couple handle names that are Mobile ENT NC, just to kind of get people more into the tune of what it is I actually do rather than None of Your Ears Wax. I'm on YouTube as well. I'm on a lot of just like social media platforms where I post the majority of things over and over again. I also have a website. It's called www.mobileentnc.com. There's the ability to reach out to me via email, text, any way, shape, or form if you want to contact me. Like I said, you're getting me directly. It's not like you're getting a front desk or anybody else. You're going to talk to me. And I can help in any way possible, whether it's again coming to your house or just talking over the phone. It's something I'm passionate about doing for
It's
patients.
outstanding. I love it so much. It's the first time I've seen this model deployed in our specialty, and I love it. I'm totally going to be following along, and know you're going to be very successful with it. So, and we'll have all those links in our show notes. All right, Fast Five. This is going to be the Garage Gym Workout Edition. I'm not completely tracking how long you've been working out and getting buff, but it does look like you started certainly posting frequently about it in 2026. Is this
Yeah.
something that's been of interest to yours for a while, or is it something that you just started?
I wanted to also create a little, almost like a follow along, 2026. So during my local locums opportunity, I put in so much time and effort into that job. I mean, it was staying past 6 o'clock. I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I just was not eating healthy. I was not taking care of my body. And I wanted this to be an opportunity to say, I need to step back and I need to focus on me. Getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep at night, getting up in the morning, just being tired all the time and running on caffeine rather than saying, listen, my health is important. At some point, it was gonna burn me out so bad, and I'm glad it ended up finishing because now I'm not in a rush to do an exercise and to get into my car and to go to the clinic and see patients. I get to spend time in there, and if I need to correct something or if I need to eat a little bit healthier, I have that focus entirely, and so I just wanted to create this wellness journey in 2026 where it keeps me in line to know that I have to post every single day because that means I'm doing the exercise.
I love it. It's motivational for me for
Yeah,
sure. All right, here are my Fast Five. First one, barbell or dumbbells,
dumbbells,
squats or deadlifts,
squats,
early morning lift or late night garage session,
early morning, 3 o'clock.
3 a.m.
Yes.
Holy cow. Got to get up before those kids, huh?
You have to,
3 a.m. Jeez.
yes.
Music while lifting or silence?
Music, I used to do headphones, but now I do kind of just ambient sound and I actually listen to gospel or I will do EDM. So it's like a complete different.
One exercise every clinician should do to survive long clinic days.
I would say 100 body weight squats every single day or 100 push-ups
100 push-ups. Ah,
throughout the
anything
day.
easier than that?
Throughout the day. You don't have to do it right at the same time.
For those, how about for the mortals among us, Pavel?
You could do knee push-ups, I
Push-ups and
guess.
squats. Push-ups and squats. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Hey, Pavel, thank you so much for your time and chatting with us today about your experience in ENT, being a PA, working locums, and your entrepreneurial endeavors. It was a great pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks so much for having me.